Hey, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. We are hopeful that you are watching this as a Patreon patron or as a YouTube subscriber or as a Twitch Prime subscriber who has managed to figure out how to link your Twitch Prime account through Amazon Prime account. The instructions to do that are in the show description below. We actually get paid, a couple of bucks a month if you manage to do that. So would you please check out the show description, figure out how to link those accounts. I cannot believe there's anybody watching this who is not an Amazon Prime member.
This episode of Pachter Factor is brought to you by DeShazer Ryan Realty. Right now, Doug DeShazer has beautiful lots available adjacent to Koocanusa Lake in northwest Montana. Pull up your RV and access the hookups, or build your own construction. Either way, you have access to world-class fishing, hunting, boating, swimming, biking, hiking, and the internet. No matter where you're looking to buy, make Doug DeShazer your real estate consultant at 406-291-1643. That's Doug DeShazer at 406-291-1643.
Hey, fellow babies, our question today from Patreon from Tarma. Video game sales were down 7% year over year in the important month of November, with hardware sales down a whopping 24% despite extensive discounts and bundles. The latest Sonic game also underperformed. Is this an early sign that the move to $70 games is a bad idea? What else could be causing this shortfall in just the third year of this console generation and one of the best years ever for game releases? The formerly known NPD group, which I'm now free to criticize them because when I was a subscriber, they would actually suspend me for criticizing them, and I no longer subscribe. The data is so bad that it's worthless. And let me qualify that. The physical software and hardware data is spot on perfect. They capture enough retailers that their physical number is absolutely perfect. Their digital number comes from surveying publishers, and I can assure you, monthly, Take-Two, Ubisoft, EA, Activision, Microsoft, Sony, do not give them numbers. Nothing. So digital download sales, they don't know. And when I said Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, try buying a copy of Madden Football from EA.com. You can't. You can buy a hard copy. You cannot buy a digital download. You have to buy it from Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, or Nintendo if it's on the Switch. So the console manufacturers do not report digital sales to NPD monthly. I know that for sure. So what NPD does is they survey consumers and ask them what they bought. And then they extrapolate their survey, which is fine. And I would say it's close enough, plus or minus 10%. So when they say down 7, it could have been up 3. Who knows? So don't take NPD numbers as gospel. I was in a meeting with Take-Two in early December. And one of the questions that an investor asked the CEO was, when GTA came out last time, what percentage of the first month or first quarter sales were digital? And the CEO said, gee, I don't know. And I said, I do, 99%. And the CEO said, how do you know that? And I go, because that game came out for PS3 and Xbox 360, and neither of those consoles had a very big hard drive. And, if you wanted to play the game, you bought a physical copy. It was available for digital download, but I said the most digitally downloaded game at the time was about 3% digital. It wasn't until the PS4 and the Xbox One that you got, 1 terabyte plus hard drives, and that everything got a big push to digital. And download speeds improved with the PS4. Sony figured out how to partially download the game and I remember Sony was at the time would advertise that you can hit on your phone, download this game to my console, and the game would be playable 3 minutes later. They would start the whole process and it would be playable. So, and then I said to the investor, I guess you're getting at what percentage will be digitally downloaded this time in the first month. And the CEO instantly goes, 50%, right? So 50% will be digital and maybe more. So the point is, GTA hasn't been announced yet for a date. So let's see what the install base of PS5s is by then. But the truth is that digital has become such a massive, percentage of total game sales that NPD's estimates are just bogus. They have no idea. And again, they're estimating. So am I. But the answer to your question is yes, hardware sales are down, and yes, this was a great year for games. And some of the giant games, like Zelda and Baldur's Gate, have probably caused people to continue to keep playing them, and maybe some bad reviews from games like Call of Duty probably limited sales. So is it possible sales are down? Sure. I just wouldn't go with the NPD's number of down 7. I just don't think we can actually measure it that finely based on their estimate. And the truth is that I wouldn't worry about a trend of people buying fewer games. We had a great year for games, and we have a great year for games coming next year as well. Don't forget the impact of things like Game Pass, like Starfield on Game Pass. Does that impact the number of units sold? Absolutely. What happens next year, with Call of Duty on Game Pass? I mean, are people the World of Warcraft expansion on Game Pass? I mean, there's so much that very likely will happen that you're going to see physical sales continue to decline. I think what you should worry about as a gaming aficionado is engagement. And what really matters is, and I'm very confident in saying this, more people are playing games today than were yesterday, and more yesterday than ever in the history of the world, and that number is going to keep going up. And that aggregate number of people, 3.5 billion, are playing more hours today than they were yesterday and a year ago and 5 years ago. And that trend's going to continue. And the fact is that games are getting cheaper because of free-to-play. Games are getting easier to access because of services like Game Pass and because of mobile games. Games are getting better on mobile because of the GPU in the phone, and because of bandwidth and because of cloud. So you're just going to get more experiences at lower cost and better. And Game Pass is a game changer because it eliminates the need to buy a console. We're not really there yet, but Microsoft would still love to sell you an Xbox. But I'd say within 5 years, games are going to debut on Game Pass, and it's going to be internet connection, controller, and a TV that's connected to the internet somehow. And that will bring more people in if they don't have to buy a console. There are tens of millions of people out there who have one favorite game that they would pay $15 a month to play for a few months, like FIFA, who haven't owned a console in the last 10 years because they just don't play enough games to justify spending $500. But they'll pay $15 a month, and they might get convinced that there's another dozen games to play once they pay the $15 a month. Just like there are tens of millions of people who will subscribe to Netflix but won't subscribe to cable TV, because it's too expensive. So I think there's enough content in Game Pass to really cement that thing. I think there's enough value proposition from Game Pass eliminating the need for a console to dramatically expand the reach. And so I think call it 400 million people who play console or PC games is going to grow to a couple of billion people in the next 20 years. And Game Pass and maybe some competitors, some copycats, are going to capture the vast majority of that. Imagine if Game Pass dropped to $5 a month, right? If Microsoft could make that happen and make it work, if they had 1 billion subscribers, and they would, that's essentially what we've seen with cell phone service, that the cost per phone has gone down and it's become so cheap that you have a lot of users. So I really think you should not worry about a given month. And I really think that with fewer competitors out there, between bankruptcies and acquisitions and stuff, we're kind of left with 4 or 5 major, Western video game companies. You're just going to see better and better content. And I love that Baldur's Gate is from Larian. I love that. I think that is the most important thing in the world. Smaller studios are creating the best content out there. So I'm pretty psyched about the industry right now. I think it's a good time to be alive and be a gamer. I mean, the answer on the hardware is that, Sony and Microsoft did a great job of kind of penetrating and creating a scarcity, not on purpose, but I mean because of supply chain. And so everybody who really first movers all bought their consoles. The reason that hardware sales are down this much this year is they just haven't cut price. Look at the PS2. It launched at $300 and in 2000, and in mid 02 it was $150. It got cut in half. $350 is still a lot. We also have this dynamic of not really being in a recession, but people feel like we're about to be in one. So people are kind of watching what they spend. We're also having this dynamic where people have such pent-up demand for vacation that they're spending far more money on travel than ever before. So all the airlines are kind of at record capacity. There's a lot going on, and I wouldn't freak about a month. I know it's holiday, but I wouldn't freak about a month. And then remember, the Switch is really old in the tooth. I mean, it's 6 years old, which is awesome. But it's 6 years old, and they haven't discounted. The Switch, which is a great device, is still pretty high price given that we're 6 years into the cycle. So, I think people are just, happy with what they got. I'm waiting for, a season, a year where games are available only on next-gen consoles, and where all games are next-gen only. We haven't gotten there yet. And this is really late in the cycle, 3 full years into the cycle. Not that we can ever count on Rockstar to not change its mind, but the Rockstar announcement of GTA 6 said PS5 and Xbox Series. I think it didn't even say PC, I don't think, but it said PS5. It didn't say PS4. So again, I think all of that stuff contributes to hardware sales. And and again, we obviously have games like Spider-Man and stuff that you want to play next gen. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't think 70 really is the reason. I think it's more just that this was a year of really good game launches, but not from major publishers. So EA, Activision, Take-Two really didn't have big frontline releases other than their annual games. And Ubi, we still don't have Skull and Bones, which I don't think is a system mover, console mover. But they put out kind of a half-assed Assassin's Creed. I mean, we just don't have it. Nintendo's had really good content cadence, but as I said, they haven't cut the price enough to make it really worthwhile yet. I think when the Switch 2 comes out, whatever they call it, and they cut the Switch 1, to $149 for the Slim and $199 for the Standard and $249 for OLED, they'll see sales spike. I really do think so. And especially because it's highly likely that for several games will be both backward compatible and next gen. So, again, it depends on the specs on the new console and whether they have to make 2 versions of the game. But I'm a Nintendo fan, as you'll find out in the next several episodes. All right, fellow babies, thank you so much for joining us on Pachter Factor. I hope everyone has a wonderful, safe, and happy holiday. I'm not going to make any massive political statements, but I do wish all of you peace, all of you, everyone, even the people who are unable to watch this. Peace is important, and just keep in mind that you can fix a lot of problems just by being charitable and loving people and hoping that they love you back. Have a great holiday, and I will see you next time.